The Swan's journey. The sun dipped low over the kingdom of Silvaren, painting the sky with hues of amber and crimson. But within the grand halls of the palace, a chill lingered. Prince Elyan stood before the tall mirror in his chamber, his reflection a grim reminder of his fate. A single black feather rested on the table beside him, its edges shimmering faintly with an otherworldly glow. He loathed the sight of it. "Soon," he muttered, his voice heavy with resignation. He clenched his fists, feeling the telltale tingle in his veins. The curse's approach. It began months ago, on the eve of Elyan's coronation. The celebration had been grand, filled with music, wine, and laughter. Yet, amid the joy, a shadow loomed. Elyan, a sorcerer exiled long ago for treachery, returned in secret. Cloaked in bitterness, he sought vengeance against the royal bloodline. That night, he slipped into Elyan's chamber and uttered words steeped in malice. "By dusk's embrace, thou shalt wear feathers of shame, a swan by night, a man by day, until thy pride is stripped and love is proved." The curse took hold swiftly. Each night, as the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, Elyan transformed into a majestic white swan, his human form returning only with dawn. The kingdom whispered of the prince who could not rule, of a throne destined to remain vacant. Yet none whispered louder than Elyan's own doubts. His only comfort was Lady Mirin, a noblewoman of fiery resolve and unyielding devotion. She believed in him when he could not believe in himself. Her soft voice broke through his thoughts now as she entered his chamber. "You're pacing again," she said gently, her emerald eyes scanning his tense frame. He managed a small smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "It's hard to sit still when you know what's coming." Mirin stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. "You're not alone, Elyan. We'll find a way to break this." He looked at her, his expression softening. "I don't deserve you. You deserve much more than this curse," she said firmly. "And we'll prove it." That evening, after the transformation, Mirin sat beside the swan that Elyan had become. She traced the delicate lines of his feathers, her heart aching. The oracle of Arum had spoken of the Lake of Tears, a place of ancient magic, capable of undoing even the most insidious spells. Yet the journey was perilous, and the lake's exact location remained a mystery. "I've been studying," Mirin whispered. She unrolled a map she had tucked beneath her cloak, its edges worn and ink faint. "The lake lies somewhere beyond the Enchanted Forest. It won't be easy, but I know we can find it." The swan turned its head toward her, its dark eyes reflecting gratitude. It was in that moment she resolved there would be no turning back. By dawn, the curse would recede, and Elyan would be a man once more. Together, they would begin their journey. Morning came with the sound of chirping sparrows and the faint hum of a bustling castle. Elyan now returned to his human form, joined Mirin in the royal library. Sunlight filtered through the stained glass windows, casting rainbows across rows of ancient tomes. "This prophecy," Elyan began, scanning an aged scroll Mirin had found. "It doesn't make sense. Through forest shadow and river's flow, the curse will find where sorrows grow." "What does that mean?" "It's the Enchanted Forest," Mirin said confidently. "The shadows refer to the labyrinth within, and the river likely marks a path we must follow. The Lake of Tears is said to lie beyond it." "But the curse," Elyan faltered. "What if Orlan's magic is too strong? What if the lake doesn't work?" Mirin reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "We'll never know if we don't try. Elyan, you've faced worse than this. You're stronger than you think." Her words ignited a flicker of hope within him. If there was a chance, no matter how slim, to reclaim his life, to stand beside Mirin as the man she believed him to be, he would take it. "Then we leave at once," Elyan declared, his voice steadier than it had been in weeks. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows over the castle grounds, Elyan and Mirin rode out of Silvaren. The black feather, an eternal reminder of the curse, was tucked safely into Elyan's satchel. Ahead of them lay the unknown, treacherous forests, rivers that sang of danger, and the faintest hope of salvation. The Swan Prince and his beloved ventured into the wild, their resolve unbroken, their hearts entwined. Thus began their journey toward the Lake of Tears, a journey that would test their courage, their love, and their very souls. The path to the Oracle of Orem was as treacherous as the legends foretold. High in the cliffs of the Grey Spire Mountains, the Oracle's sanctuary was shrouded in perpetual mist. As Elyan and Mirin climbed the narrow, jagged trail, each step tested their endurance. Loose stones tumbled into the abyss below, their echoes fading into the unknown. "Do you think this oracle will help us?" Elyan asked, his voice tense as he steadied himself against the rocky wall. "She will," Mirin replied, her tone firm. "The prophecies say she cannot lie, but her truths are never simple. Be ready for riddles." Elyan nodded, though his unease grew with each step. He had heard stories of seekers who left the oracle's domain with more questions than answers, or worse, driven mad by her cryptic wisdom. But Mirin's unwavering determination anchored him. Together they pressed on, reaching the sanctuary's ancient gates by dusk. The entrance was carved directly into the mountainside, flanked by statues of winged serpents with jeweled eyes that glimmered in the fading light. As the pair approached, the gates groaned open as if sensing their presence. Beyond lay a vast chamber bathed in soft blue light. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the sound of water dripping into unseen pools echoed eerily. At the center of the chamber sat the oracle. Her form was both human and otherworldly, a veiled figure whose eyes shimmered like silver moons. Around her floated fragments of broken mirrors, reflecting distorted images of the world. "You seek the lake of tears," the oracle said, before they could speak, her voice reverberating like a song on the wind. "A place where sorrow feeds hope and the cursed find solace." Elyan stepped forward, his voice steady but cautious. "We've come to break this curse. How do we find the lake?" The oracle tilted her head, the mirrors circling faster. "The lake lies beyond the Enchanted Forest, hidden from unworthy eyes. But the path will test you. Only those who endure love's trials can reach its waters." Her words sent a chill through Elyan. "What trials? What must we do?" She raised her hand, and the fragments of mirrors converged, forming a single image, a luminous lake beneath a starless sky. As they gazed, the image shifted to reveal a relic, a smooth black stone etched with runes. "The lament stone," the oracle intoned. "It rests in the heart of the Enchanted Forest. Without it, the lake's magic cannot free you." "How will we know where to find it?" Mirin asked, her voice calm despite the growing tension. "Through forest shadow and river's flow," the oracle recited. "The cursed will find where sorrows grow. Beyond the veil of tears unseen, love's true form shall break the dream." Her silver eyes locked onto Elyan. "Beware the shadow of doubt. It will tempt you to abandon your path." Before he could ask more, the oracle's chamber dissolved into darkness. When light returned, they were outside the gates, the cold mountain wind biting at their skin. Mirin held Elyan's arm, steadying him as he processed the cryptic prophecy. The journey down the mountain was no easier than the ascent. The words of the oracle weighed heavily on Elyan's mind. His thoughts swirled with questions. What did she mean by love's trials? Could he truly face whatever awaited them? As they reached the base of the cliffs, Mirin stopped and turned to him. "You're thinking too much again." "How can I not?" he said, his frustration spilling over. "What if I fail, Mirin? What if I'm not strong enough?" She placed her hands on his shoulders, forcing him to meet her gaze. "You're stronger than you know, Elyan. This curse doesn't define you. We'll face the trials together." Her confidence was a balm to his doubts. "I don't deserve your faith," he murmured. But she silenced him with a smile. "You deserve everything," she said firmly. "And we'll prove it." That night, they camped at the forest's edge, the stars glittering faintly above them. Elyan lay awake, watching the flames of their fire dance against the trees. He thought of the oracle's warning, the shadow of doubt. His own fears threatened to consume him. But Mirin's presence was a constant reminder of what they were fighting for. As the fire burned low, Elyan finally allowed himself to sleep, his dreams filled with visions of the lake and the trials ahead. The black feather, now tucked into his satchel, seemed to pulse faintly, as if echoing his unease. When morning came, they would step into the Enchanted Forest, where the prophecy's riddles would begin to unfold. The Enchanted Forest loomed before them, its trees twisted and gnarled, their branches forming a canopy so thick it shrouded the forest floor in perpetual twilight. A faint mist clung to the air, curling like tendrils around their feet. The distant call of unseen birds them echoed, their songs discordant and haunting. "This place is alive," Mirin murmured, her hand resting on the hilt of her dagger. "It feels like it's watching us," Elyan replied, gripping the strap of his satchel, a black feather within an ever-present reminder of the curse. As they stepped into the forest, the temperature seemed to drop, and the path ahead disappeared into a labyrinth of shadows. Every direction looked the same, yet an unspoken force seemed to guide them deeper. The prophecy's riddle whispered in Elyan's mind, through forest shadow and river's flow. He shivered. The first trial, the test of faith. Hours passed, or so it seemed, though time felt strangely distorted in the forest. Suddenly, the path ended at a wide, rushing river. The water was black as obsidian, its surface unnaturally still, despite the roar that filled the air. A narrow bridge, barely wide enough for one person, spanned the chasm. As they approached, a figure emerged from the mist, a woman draped in silver, her face obscured by a veil. Her voice, like the echo of a bell, rang out. "Only those who trust the unseen may cross." Elyan hesitated. What does she mean? Mirin stepped forward, her expression unwavering. "It's a test. We have to trust that the bridge will hold." As if on cue, the bridge creaked, its wooden planks dissolving into mist. What remained was a faint shimmer of light, a thread-like path invisible to the eye, yet palpable beneath the feet. Mirin stepped onto it without hesitation, her faith steady. Elyan followed, his heart pounding as the rushing water below seemed to beckon him. Halfway across, the mist thickened, obscuring Mirin from view. Elyan's confidence faltered. The thread beneath his feet wavered, flickering as doubt took hold. "I can't see you," he called out. "Keep going, Elyan." Mirin's voice came from somewhere ahead. "I'm right here." Swallowing his fear, Elyan forced himself to trust her words. Each step grew steadier until he felt the solid ground of the other side. The mist cleared, revealing Mirin waiting with a triumphant smile. "I knew you could do it." The second trial, the trial of unity. The forest twisted once more, leading them into a labyrinth of towering hedges. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth, and the faint rustling of unseen creatures set Elyan's nerves on edge. The path soon diverged into two, one leading left and the other right. "We can't separate," Elyan said, unease creeping into his voice. Before Mirin could respond, a low growl emanated from the shadows. A pack of wolf-like creatures with glowing red eyes emerged, surrounding them. Their snarls filled the air, their fangs bared. "This is another test," Mirin said, her voice steady. "We have to move together, no matter what." Elyan nodded, drawing his sword. The creatures lunged, but instead of fighting, Mirin grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the left path. "We can't fight them. This is about trust." The wolves chased them relentlessly, the path twisting and narrowing with each turn. As panic threatened to overtake Elyan, Mirin held him fast to his arm, guiding him through the maze. At last, they burst into a clearing, the creatures vanishing like smoke. "We made it," Mirin said, breathing hard but victorious. "Because of you," Elyan replied, a hint of awe in his voice. The third trial, the challenge of sacrifice. The final stretch of the forest brought them to a serene glade, where a pedestal stood, holding a glowing orb of light. As they approached, a voice echoed around them. To claim the lament stone, one must offer what is most cherished. Mirin froze, understanding dawning in her eyes. She turned to Elyan, her voice barely above a whisper. "It means me, my memories of you." "No," Elyan said, his voice trembling. "I can't let you do that. If we don't, the curse will never break," she replied. "This is a sacrifice we have to make." Tears welled in Elyan's eyes as Mirin stepped forward, placing her hands on the orb. A soft glow enveloped her, and she gasped as fragments of her memories. Her first meeting with Elyan, their shared laughter, their bond, flowed into the light. When it was over, the orb vanished, replaced by a smooth black stone etched with runes. Mirin turned to Elyan, her eyes searching his face with unfamiliarity. "Who are you?" Elyan's heart broke, but he held her hand gently. "I'll remind you, every step of the way." With the lament stone in hand, they left the forest, its shadow lifting as they emerged. The trials had left them scarred, but Elyan's resolve had never been stronger. Ahead lay the Mistlands and the legendary Lake of Tears. The Mistlands stretched before them, a desolate expanse where the ground was brittle and the air hung heavy with silence. The mist was unlike anything Elyan and Mirin had encountered before. It was alive, shifting and curling as if aware of their presence. Each step was a test of their will, the veil thickening to obscure all but the faintest outlines of the path ahead. "Are we close?" Elyan asked. His voice hushed as though afraid to disturb the oppressive quiet. Mirin held the lament stone in her hands, its runes glowing faintly with a guiding light. Though her memories of him had been sacrificed in the forest, her resolve remained intact. "The stone will guide us," she said, her tone calm but distant. Elyan watched her closely, his heart aching with every moment of her unfamiliarity. He had promised to remind her of their love, but now he feared he had little time left to do so. The mist seemed to leach hope from the air, feeding on their doubts. As they journeyed deeper into the mistlands, shadows began to take form. Faint figures moved within the mist, silent and indistinct, their shapes flickering like half-formed memories. Mirin faltered, her gaze fixed on one of the shadows. "What are they?" she whispered. Elyan tightened his grip on his sword, though he doubted it would be of much use here. "I don't know. Stay close." One of the figures stepped forward, solidifying into a shape Elyan recognized with a jolt. It was himself, but not as he was now. This version of him was regal, confident and whole, standing tall as though unburdened by any curse. "You don't belong here," the shadow Elyan said, his voice smooth and cold. "You've already failed." Mirin's eyes darted between them, confusion knitting her brow. "What is this?" "It's a lie," Elyan said, his voice firm despite the fear tightening in his chest. "The mist is trying to break us," the shadow sneered. "Is it a lie? She doesn't even remember you. How can you hope to succeed when she doesn't know who you are?" Elyan stepped forward, his sword raised. "She may not remember, but her heart knows. You won't take that from us." The shadow laughed, dissolving into the mist. Around them the other figures flickered and faded, their whispers retreating into silence. Elyan turned to Mirin, who clutched the lament stone tightly, her knuckles white. "Are you all right?" he asked. She hesitated before nodding. "I don't know who you are to me, but I know you're telling the truth. Let's keep moving." At last, they reached the edge of the mistlands, where the ground sloped downward to reveal the Lake of Tears. The lake was unlike anything they had imagined. Its waters shimmered with a silvery glow, each ripple reflecting a kaleidoscope of stars. Yet no stars shone in the sky above. It was as if the lake itself held the heavens. A figure emerged from the water's edge, her form both beautiful and terrible. She was one of the sirens of sorrow, the legendary guardians of the lake. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, and her eyes gleamed with an otherworldly light. "You seek the lake's power," the siren said, her voice a melody of sorrow and temptation. "But the waters demand truth. Will you bare your hearts?" Elyan stepped forward, his determination unwavering. "We've come to break this curse. We've sacrificed much to reach this place." The siren's gaze shifted to Mirin, her expression unreadable. "And you, mortal, do you know why you are here?" Mirin faltered, her grip on the lament stone tightening. I don't remember everything, but I know I would give anything to help him." The siren smiled faintly, though it did not reach her eyes. "Then the lake will judge." As they approached the water's edge, the siren gestured for Mirin to place the lament stone into the lake. She hesitated for only a moment before kneeling and lowering the stone into the shimmering waters. A radiant light erupted, and the lake began to shift, its surface rippling as images formed. Elyan saw his life reflected in the water. The curse's origins, his despair, and the moments of hope Mirin had given him. Beside him, Mirin watched the fragments of their shared story, her face a mixture of awe and sorrow. "I remember," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I remember everything." The siren's voice broke the moment. "The lake has heard your plea, but love must still prove its strength. One final sacrifice must be made." Elyan turned to Mirin, his heart sinking. "What more can we give?" The siren's gaze softened. "One of you must offer your life to cleanse the curse." The weight of her words fell like a hammer. Elyan and Mirin exchanged a long, pained look. Without hesitation, Elyan stepped forward. "I'll do it," he said. "This curse was mine to bear. Let her live." But Mirin shook her head, her voice breaking. "I've seen what you mean to this kingdom, Elyan. It needs you. I'll stay." Before either could act, the lake surged, its waters rising to encircle them. The siren's voice echoed. "Only one truth remains. To love is to sacrifice. Together, your choice has freed you." The waters glowed brighter, and Elyan felt the curse begin to unravel. The black feather dissolved into light, and the swan that had haunted him vanished forever. The lake of tears surged with light, its silver waters rising in ethereal waves that pulsed with an ancient living rhythm. Elyan and Mirin stood at its edge, their reflections distorted by the magic that now intertwined with their fates. The siren of sorrow watched, her expression inscrutable as the lake began its final act of judgment. "You have chosen sacrifice," the siren intoned, her voice resonating like the toll of a distant bell. "But love's true strength lies not in death, but in its refusal to let go. The lake has seen your hearts. Now its gift will be granted." Elyan turned to Mirin, his chest tightening with both fear and hope. The memory of her courage, the moment she sacrificed her memories of him in the forest, burned brightly in his mind. It was her unwavering faith that had carried them this far, even when she didn't know him. He reached for her hand, and she let him take it, their fingers entwining as if by instinct. "What happens now?" Mirin whispered, her voice trembling. "The lake will take from you what you hold most dear," the siren said. "But it will also return what was lost. To claim its power, you must weep not for yourselves, but for each other." The surface of the lake stilled, becoming a flawless mirror. Within it, Mirin saw Elyan's life, reflected as though through a tear-streaked lens. She saw his struggles, his moments of doubt and despair as the curse consumed him. She saw the weight of his loneliness, the nights spent in silence as a swan, longing for freedom he feared he would never find. Tears welled in her eyes. Unbidden, "I never realized how much you've carried alone," she said, her voice breaking. Elyan looked at her, his gaze soft but pained. "And I never understood what I asked of you. To give up your memories, your very self, for me. I can never repay that. He turned back to the lake, and his reflection shifted to reveal Mirin's journey. Her fierce determination to stand by him, even when the curse tried to tear them apart. He saw her resolve in the Enchanted Forest, her sacrifice of the memories that bound them, and her struggle to hold on to hope even when the shadow of doubt loomed. Tears streaked his face as he spoke. You've given everything for me. I see that now, and I love you all the more for it. The lake began to ripple as the tears fell into its waters, the drops creating radiant ripples of silver and gold. The siren stepped forward, her voice now a melody of sorrow and reverence. You have given your tears freely, not for yourselves, but for the pain of the other. This is the essence of the lake's magic, love that transcends the self. The lament stone, still submerged in the lake's surface, began to glow. The runes etched upon it shone with an intensity that made the surrounding mist retreat. The light enveloped Elyan and Mirin, its warmth filling them with a sense of peace they had not felt in months. Elyan gasped as a familiar sensation coursed through him, one he hadn't felt since before the curse. The weight of Orlan's magic lifted, the phantom wings that had haunted him dissolving into nothingness. The curse was gone. Mirin's hand tightened in his as her memories flooded back, the fragmented pieces of their past stitching themselves together. She looked at him, and this time her gaze was filled with recognition. Elyan, she whispered, her voice trembling. I remember everything. He pulled her into an embrace, his voice thick with emotion. We did it, Mirin. We broke the curse. Together. The siren watched silently as the lake's magic receded, leaving the waters calm and still once more. Her expression softened, a flicker of humanity breaking through her otherworldly visage. Your journey has ended, she said. But remember this, love is not simply a bond. It is the strength to endure, to sacrifice, and to rebuild. Guard it well. With those final words, the siren dissolved into the mist, leaving Elyan and Mirin alone by the lake. The lament stone, its purpose fulfilled, crumbled into dust, carried away on the gentle breeze. As they made their way back through the mistlands, the oppressive fog lifted, revealing a sky streaked with the first light of dawn. Elyan felt lighter than he had in years, the curse no longer a shadow upon his soul. Mirin walked beside him, her hand in his, her steps steady and sure. What happens now? She asked as they emerged from the mistlands, the kingdom of Silvaren stretching out before them in the distance. Elyan paused, looking at her with a smile that was both weary and full of hope. We return to Silvaren. Together, we'll rebuild what was lost. And the story of the Lake of Tears? Mirin asked, her voice soft. It will become a legend, Elyan said. A story of love, sacrifice, and redemption. a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a way forward. Hand in hand, they began their journey home, their hearts united and their bond unbreakable. The Swan Prince and his beloved had triumphed, their love proving stronger than any curse, and their story would echo through the ages.